but Dave and I pitched this hard. But my favorite comics when I was a kid was the crossover comics. It'd be like Justice League fights the Avengers, and why? And we pitched hard to do like a crossover within universes. Like, why can't Doomslayer fight Master Chief?
I'm Russ Melheim from The Direct. Thank you both for talking to me today about Secret Level.
Our pleasure. Nice
Our,
to meet
our
you.
pleasure.
Congratulations on the series. You have 15 really cool shorts. I had a lot of fun watching all of them. They're all very different and unique.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. Can you guys just like off the bat, can you guys talk about just the balance of making sure each kind of worked with being more than just a cool cutscene and having, a nice little story to go along with them as well?
Well, first of all, what's wrong with cool cutscenes?
That's true. That's true.
We do. I mean, the origin of the story is really because Blur does a lot of cool cutscenes, and we have these relationships with all these companies over the years, and so we thought, how cool would it be if we told original stories? And it, often they're in support of a release of the game, or they're the marketing of the game, or they're trying to show off different game mechanics for a new release. And we just wanted to do something that was sort of just pure story driven. And I mean, it's definitely what the publishers, we talk to them. The first thing we do is we say, what do you want to explore here? But but it's less commerce driven and more story driven for sure.
Now, for both of you, what do you think was the hardest short out of the bunch to get right, to get exactly how you guys wanted?
Did any of them really get to where they were exactly what we wanted? Like, I
Art
have
is never
this.
finished; it's just abandoned.
Yes, only abandoned. Um, there was. It's a bit of a cop-out answer, but some of them were difficult for different reasons. Ironically, the easiest, from my perspective. So obviously, Tim and I have to sort of oversee everything, and we have directors come in who helm the episodes. I only personally directed two of them, but like Pac-Man was the easiest. Like it was the hardest to crack a story for. We went through multiple iterations, but once JT came back with the script and we gave it to Victor and Alfredo, the headless directors, we didn't do anything. Like, I mean, the story reel showed up and was this like beautiful, violent tone poem to Pac-Man. And it's barely changed since then. Like, so like and that was difficult development, easy execution. Others, were more complicated in the visual part of it. Like Outer Worlds was the easiest. I would say, like, we got a great short story from Siobhan Carroll that was a fabulous adaptation from Heather Ann Campbell, who writes for Rick and Morty. And so that was easy. And then like getting the performances right was harder.
Yeah.
Just because like the sense of humor is a bit nuanced and everything, but like eventually like we got it there. It just took longer than something like Pac-Man did.
Playtime was a tricky one because it just kind of came together late. Who was going to be in the Kevin Hart and Heaven Hart, his daughter, and just what IP was going to be in that game since it had more than one. It was just a little tricky one. And then we had a few, like the Mega Man episode. We went pretty far down the path with a different story, and then turned around and said, "I'm not sure that's going to work. So let's try something different." But it's never easy. It's weird.
Well, it's interesting that you said like, well, that like the Pac-Man one was, I guess one of the easier ones. That was one of my favorites, but it is such a wild take on the genre, or I'm not on the genre, on the franchise. And yeah, I was gonna ask about like how that idea evolved, but you were saying that basically that's just what it was. Someone it just came up with that, and that's how it was out the gate, basically.
We have this process. So on Love, Death and Robots, we took short stories and turned them into screenplays that became the episodes. And in an effort to sort of not homogenize all the ideas in Love, Death, and Robots, we brought back a lot of the same authors: Tamsin Muir, John Scalzi, Adrian Tchaikovsky, Abercrombie. Like there's like a murderer's row of them, and they're great. But we couldn't, like, Bandai challenged us out the gate. Their mission statement for the episode is we would love audiences to wonder what the fuck we did with Pac-Man. And so we gave that brief, but we never quite got there. And JT Petty, our head writer, who loves horror, he writes a lot. He wrote the Outlast Trials, the game, and writes obviously film and television too. He just came back one weekend with the script after like a conversation he had. He had a line of dialogue in his head, stuck in his head, which was "You can eat them, but never their eyes." And I think that sort of inspired his whole take on it.
It was a good one. I enjoyed that one. Another, like and you mentioned it as well, Tim, the PlayStation episode, the Playtime Fulfillment. I wanted to ask about that one because it's unique in that it's not a story within any of those franchises, but rather, it has a lot of fun nods to a lot of them. Uh, why was that the case? Was the kind of Sony hesitant on telling specific stories in their world, and they had different parameters than some of the other IPs?
There were a few reasons. That was part of the equation because those characters. There's a lot of development in the game space now in Hollywood, so there were certainly some issues around like what IP or what characters and games we could get. But some of it was who we have relationships with, and in that case, we had a relationship with not a specific developer, but someone who's one of the top guys at PlayStation, and they suggested doing something that was not just one character or set in one world, but do something that sort of covered the breadth of the PlayStation franchises, and we liked that idea because it was different. It was different than any of the other ones we had in there. Anytime somebody says, "Hey, let's do something that's different," Dave and I perk up. So
Everyone back, yeah, and everyone else backs out of the room.
yeah.
Like it's
Like,
Wait, we're not going to just do one character. We're going to do 12.
and it's so different in that like Amazon's amazing about this in that it's not like a land grab thing, that they don't own the rights to these characters or these video games or like, which is the typical process in Hollywood. Like, and I think that people don't even a lot like there's a God of War things in development. Like just because they may or may not have an episode in our series doesn't mean that stops, because we don't. Amazon isn't interested in just accumulating IP. They just was like an opportunity to tell a like interesting, unique story set in the worlds of all these games without having to own them, which I think is very forward thinking. But I think because it's a new, people don't usually do business that way. I think there was a lot of trepidation
Yeah.
around it.
Now, you have both also worked on Love, Death, and Robots, which is basically, this almost feels like it's like a spiritual successor to. What would you say are some of the key pillars that make Secret Level unique from Love, Death, and Robots?
Well, this was literally me saying one day to our one of our sales guys said, "Hey, what if we just did Love, Death, and Video Games?" And he's like, "Oh my God, I could sell the fuck out of that." And so what's different here is really when it right now, like what we're doing here with Love, Death, and Robots, we're trying to convince people to come watch a show with a bunch of different stories that they've never heard of, with characters they don't know. They're all great stories, but they're often obscure things that only I know because I read a lot. But here it's different because we're asking you to come watch stories about characters and worlds that billions of people are really drawn to, have spent time with, and love. And so we're just saying, hey, come watch these characters and these worlds that you already are interested in. And it's a much easier task, I think. And people get a lot more excited about it.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Now,
Built in.
I have to ask, Love, Death, and Robots season 4 is happening. Can you tease when that might be released? When can fans maybe see those episodes?
I think if you look at when we traditionally release the show, you might have some clues as to when. But yeah, we're working on it, and it's going to be awesome. There's some big surprises there.
I'm looking forward to it. Now, with this series being with Secret Level being about all these different franchises, I'm a big fan of Bioshock. So I just had to ask myself, Was there ever a timeline where that franchise was considered for a short here? It seems ripe,
We,
you know?
we love Bioshock. We did a couple of trailers with them and Ken Levine when they were still making the games. I think there's a feature in development somewhere or
Yeah.
something. Netflix.
I, th-
Yeah,
I think that one was blocked
yeah.
because it was in
That,
development somewhere. Dave and I both had directed Bioshock cinematics. I think I did too.
I think you did the first one. And I just did one. But yes, unfortunately, there's this. Whenever if there's something in active development, like I said, even though there's no us and like a game being a part of Secret Level does not preclude anything else. It's just, folks are, well, how would that work? And that feels awkward and unfamiliar. So let's not do that. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're developing a series for Netflix, even though they have the right to put something like a short on our show, they often wouldn't want to do that because they might piss people off. Or I'm not saying that's the case with Bioshock. I'm just saying
we didn't
off,
even, I don't think
it's
we
off.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
I asked.
Oh, we
Yeah.
did?
Yeah, Greg and I looked into it.
Now, if a season 2 is commissioned for Secret Level, what are some of the top properties that you guys would personally want to include in the next go round? Hypothetically speaking.
What do you want?
Well, Bioshock.
Other than Bioshock.
But
You have some obvious ones like
Um,
Fallout and Borderlands. Those are other ones that came to my head.
Fallout and
um,
Borderlands.
yeah. I would like if I was going to satisfy all, like it's difficult, but I have everyone has their seminal gaming experience, and for me that would definitely be like Wolfenstein / Doom. I remember where and when I was when I first like plugged those discs in and played those games. But I would also love to take some obscure thing like Pong, which I'm like, what is that story? And turn it into something. Man, but the list would go on forever. Dragon's Lair, Space Quest, Doom,
Flashback.
new like I
Duke
have
Nukem.
such
Yeah.
yeah, a fun yeah. Oh, what else? We have a massive document of games. I would love to do like a Prince of Persia thing and bring Jake Gyllenhaal back and make him make that again in like a parody of what it could have been.
Yeah. It really, the list is pretty huge. We could get 10 seasons out of, and that's just
Yeah.
all games that we generally, it's not like you're scraping the barrel. It's just games that you'd really love to see. I mean, why can't we do a Wing Commander? Sure. Why can't we do Joust that's, super
Yeah.
serious? Yeah, it's
Shadow of the Colossus. Oh man, there's so many. I
Yeah,
love
well,
that
you have the
game.
PlayStation ones like, God of War, Last of Us, those worlds. Those are all fun. Yeah, like
There
you
are
said,
some
it's
that
an endless list. It's an
like,
endless list.
but I also it's a list that I want to go like what is best animated, and like I think there's this like Hollywood wants to take things and push them into this sort of live action process, and I'm like, why? Like they're amazing animated properties. That's what video games, in my opinion, brought adult animation to Western shores long before anything else did. So like, why do we have to jettison like animation? Like I think things like God of War or whatever are like best suited for like there's a for like high super high end animation. Like I don't but that's just I love.
I'll tell you, I'll sell one more there just because I know we got to go. But Dave and I pitched this hard. But my favorite comics when I was a kid was the crossover comics. It'd be like Justice League, fights the Avengers, and why? And we pitched hard to do like a crossover within universes. Like why can't Doomslayer fight Master Chief? But even if we could do cross universe like PlayStation characters against Xbox characters or something or within these worlds, I think that would be amazing. But
A lot of exciting
Yes.
possibilities for future seasons right there.
totally, I think fans would go ape shit.
Yeah.
I mean, the first question people ask is who's going to pay for that. But I think if fans love it, we'll find a way.